you should be working with your champion to find out the path to continue the relationship. So you will need to understand who is their replacement. Are they on board yet? Are they going to look for them? Is there somebody getting promoted? In the meantime, who's picking up their work? Who's picking up, whether it's an opportunity, whether it's a new customer, who's picking up the evaluation, who's picking up the deal. If it's an existing customer, who is going to be responsible for the relationship in the meantime. And then I think this is why it's so important to have stakeholders mapped out, but also to have, of course, that engagement with the economic buyer, because in the absence of your champion now, you can actually have a great reason to engage the economic buyer. And this comes back to the power of having experience and tenure in your role, where you can actually approach that economic buyer and say, heard that Sarah is leaving. Very sad about that. Obviously, she was great, blah, blah, blah. I would love to, if I can, introduce you to some people if you haven't already found somebody, or I'd love to, whatever the value add you think you can bring to that conversation that can be a good reason to bring value to your re-engagement with that economic buyer, just to make sure there's no gap in between engagement. And that way, what better way to have, okay, so it's sad you've lost a champion, but potentially the new champion coming in is not going to only be somebody that you recommend for the role, by virtue is probably another champion for you, but they're then going to have a real advocacy for you because you're going to be the person that introduced into their new role. So it's like a good way of turning a challenge into a positive.